2016 was a year that many will never forget. It was a year of environmental disasters, terrorist attacks, verdicts, celebrity deaths, sports records, and a very chaotic election cycle. Many are glad to say 2016 is over, while others could have held on to it a little bit longer. But I want to take a moment now to reflect on my top 10 headlines of 2016. I begin with number 10. A Baltimore judge acquitted Lieutenant Brian Rice of all charges in July for his involvement in the arrest and death of Freddie Gray in April 2015. Rice was the highest ranking of the 6 police officers charged in the high-profile case. The verdict was followed by protests and riots across the country calling for racial justice in America. At number 9 is the Zika virus outbreak. In January, the first cases of microcephaly began popping up in the United States, with 3 reported cases in Florida and 2 others in Illinois. All of those diagnosed with Zika in the United States were reportedly infected in countries overseas where the virus had been circulating. Number 8 leads us to Michigan, where we find the Flint water crisis. The crisis all began when Flint, Michigan decided to switch their water source in 2014 in order to reduce the water fund shortfall. As a result, high levels of lead contaminated the water in the city, sparking big health concerns not only in Flint, but across the United States. It also prompted President Obama to sign an emergency order to assist the city. Officials are still investigating who is all at fault in this case. At number 7, we take you to Ecuador, where a 7.8 magnitude earthquake rocked the coastal town of Pedernales in April. This was the strongest earthquake to strike in decades, leaving at least 350 people dead and thousands more injured. Next, at number 6 is the Orlando nightclub shooting. In the early morning hours of June 12th, a gunman opened fire at a gay nightclub in Orlando, Florida, killing at least 50 people. The suspect was later killed in a gunfight with SWAT officers. This was the deadliest mass shooting in American history. ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack drawn out by Omar Mateen, but people across the country rallied together in support of the LGBT community following the attacks. Getting into the top 5, we take you to Rio de Janeiro, where the 2016 Summer Olympics were held. After much speculation of bacteria and unclean water and security concerns, the show still went on as athletes from around the world gathered in Rio. The United States came out on top this year with a total of 121 medals, leaving Great Britain in second with a total of 67 medals. Coming in at number 4 is the United Kingdom's Brexit vote to leave the European Union. Voters came out in June to make a decision to leave the EU in a vote of 52% to 48%, with more than 30 million people turning out to vote. The Brexit is not expected to officially happen until 2019. Now to Nice, France, where we find number 3, where at least 84 people were killed in a terrorist attack. It all unfolded on July 14th when a large truck plowed through a crowd of people who gathered to celebrate Bastille Day in Nice, France. World leaders expressed their condolences to those who lost their lives in this attack. ISIS did claim responsibility for the attack in Nice, France. At number 2, it was a game that made baseball history. During Game 7 of the World Series, the Chicago Cubs managed to pull off an impressive and narrow lead over the Cleveland Indians. The last game the Cubs were World Series champs was 108 years ago in 1908. The final score was a narrow 8-7 win at Wrigley Field in Chicago. Rounding out the top 10 is the 2016 presidential election. After a battle for the top in the primary election with the fight between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton for the Democrats, and a clash between Donald Trump and the 16 other Republican candidates, America was left with 2 polar opposite candidates in the general election, Clinton and Trump. Now, what were the big topics discussed? Well, email hackings, the economy, terrorism, and healthcare were among the many disagreements between our 2 candidates. But don't forget Gary Johnson from the Libertarian Party and Jill Stein from the Green Party, who didn't do quite as well as expected. But on November 8th, the voters turned out in record numbers to make their voices heard. The results came in during the early morning hours on November 9th, making Donald Trump the 45th president of the United States. Trump will be sworn into office on January 20th. Now, of course, there were plenty of other major news stories that happened in 2016, but we only had time for 10. That's a look back at your top headlines from 2016. I'm Caleb Cawley, wishing all of you a very happy new year.